No, it's the elevator.
In terms of wind speed,
Yeah.
is that something?
Yeah, it'd be something that you would factor in. But
Are
as
you
far
getting
as
that from like the nearest like weather station? Like,
yeah, you could.
connected?
Yeah. You know, today's not really high enough wind speed for us to really be that concerned. We could have had more than enough. So that was 24.
Great to see someone being innovative and putting these new technologies to work in order to get cover crops into the field early, extend the growing season to maximize the benefits that cover crops can offer. So I'll give Lucas the floor.
Okay. I guess we're here today because we spread all of our cover crops last year with the drone. The help of my seed salesman, Pete Christador, we 2 years ago started experimenting with this. He bought a drone and we did some trials in our test plot out back and kind of fooled around with a couple different species and rates and timing to learn some, and then the following year we decided to jump in. We're able to get a contract with NRCS to spread our cover crop, and utilizing those funds to help justify the purchase of the drone. Last year was our first year. It's typical fall around here and it got kind of dry, but things really rallied later, or mid to fall to late fall, and this spring it was just unbelievable the way it came in, and you wouldn't even known we had spread it with a drone. You would have thought that we drilled it in. We did a couple different rates. We did a 15-pound rate, a 30-pound rate, and we did up one field at 50 to kind of see if we saw any difference. It was all spread within 5 days of each other. We started early to mid-August, and for the most part, I think the timing was okay. I wouldn't hesitate to go a little earlier. It's a lot timing with some rain, and that's what we were trying to target when we were spreading. Was trying to get a rain to wash it in. So the last that we did seemed to struggle, and we took the corn off the latest on that as well. That was probably the worst looking stuff as far as how well it progressed. But it's like anything, there's so many different variables to working with a cover crop. So this year we're probably going to be going just as early, if not earlier, with our spreading. It's a DJI T50 drone. When we bought it, it was basically the DJI's state-of-the-art drone. They've since got one twice as big and just as capable, so the drone industry is rapidly moving. My advice to anybody looking at getting into drones is working with a dealer and probably trying to focus on something North American, either made or assembled, because there is some possible interference with the feds in the future as far as foreign made drones and foreign controlled as far as your network and stuff. We haven't had any issue, probably not going to have any issue with that for the life of the expectancy of this drone. But I would say DJI is probably the drone to beat as far as technology and workability. They are very, very good drones. I have 3 batteries, and when you're like moving through fields, you're consuming all 3 batteries. You're constantly charging. Drone comes down, you load, payload, swap the battery, put it in the start charging, and there's one in the cooler unit for the next one, and that one's, you're loading a fresh battery in, and it's just a constant evolving process.
How long does it take to charge?
If everything's working well, it's about 7 minutes, and your flight time is about 7 minutes. So it's very close to your flight time. But if you get into the heat, like in August, heat has a big factor on how fast it's going to accept the charge. So some of your charge times can start to get out towards 9 minutes. And if your drone's, you know, cycling real well, you can start, like if I was doing it for hire or something, I would definitely run 4 batteries. I'm running 3 now. Only when you get into a really big field do you start to slow down on, I gotta wait a couple more minutes. You know, you lose a couple minutes because the battery isn't ready yet. And that's with 3 of them. So battery.
Container is a 7 minutes worth of seed.
Yeah, you got about 7 minutes of flight time regardless of what's going on. So, yeah, there's a lot to it. Like you have to have a drone license to fly the drone legally. It's registered with the FAA, like it has a tail number. Like, I mean, this isn't just something you buy online and, fly it around the yard. This is, you have to have all that. If you're gonna be near any airspaces, you'll have to have permission to fly in that airspace. We have to stay below 400 feet. Not that you're gonna go that high with a drone like this anyway, but there's definitely a lot to get into running a drone. There's a lot to consider, like that 7 minutes, like when you hit go, like in 7 minutes, if you haven't completed the task or something happened that disrupted the drone, it's gonna auto land in 7 minutes, regardless of where it is. If you had a setup, I'm yet to get my truck set up to do it, but if I had it set up, I would say on my average field size, I could, if you were a guy and a tender to help you, you could cover 200 acres in a day, realistically. So it's not super slow. It can be pretty speedy if you got everything figured out and a tender set up. So I mean, I think that's some of the concern as well. It's, you can only do so much. It's not necessarily true. You can cover quite a bit of ground if you have things put together. Any questions?
Do you use primarily programmable flight pads and stuff, or do you fly it,
No. So DJI has their own platform. You don't really fly it by hand. You can.
Right.
I mean, we could fire it up, fly it around, do what you want. But if you're going to select a field, you're going to select boundaries. You can either do it with the remote and actually go right around the boundary of the field, so it's perfect, or you can just, it's like a Google map almost. You zoom in and you can pick all the points, and then it creates the field, and then you create what heading you want it to run, and it may be wind speed or wind direction. You may want to change your heading, and then you tell it how wide of a pass you want it to do, what it's capable of doing, and you hit go. It'll take off, go do its job. The only thing it will do is when it returns, before it lands, it's going to ask you if you want it to auto land or if you want to land it. And you can adjust it. So if it came back and let's say it's a couple of feet off of, because I did all my spreading and launched off of an 8-foot wide trailer. So every time I had to land back on that 8-foot wide trailer. And that's not a problem. The camera goes right straight down and puts a bullseye right on what you're landing on. So it's pretty easy to say, yeah, I'm where I need to be. And right down and land. And so there's not a lot of hand flying unless it runs into an obstacle and you need to maneuver out of it. But they're very comfortable controls to handle. Like you make it move, and as soon as you let go of the sticks, it just stabilizes and sits still until you ask it to do something different.
So you can punch it in by hand, like change parameters and stuff if you wanted to before.
You can change them in flight.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, you could change stuff in flight if you wanted to. Yeah, because really you're not doing anything when it's doing its thing. You're just watching the screen. But you can go in. There's certain parameters that you can or can't change, but for the most part you can change most of the parameters. But like I said, it's a lot of things you learn. Like I was using back by my old shop for an LZ, working some of this ground here, and then it finished up over here, and then returned, and it came right over the corner of the trench. And my ferry height was such that it was pretty close to the elevation of the corner of the trench. And it's those kind of things that you kind of got to consider. Not knowing where it was going to end off, then you snap a line from where it is straight there. You can change things. You can make a point of exit. So you could put in a point of exit of the road, which means if it ended there, it can't go straight back. It has to go out to the point of exit, then it'll go straight. So there's different things you can do, but that's what I mean. There's just a lot. There is a lot to planning for the safety of the drone and whatnot, because it would stop avoidance-wise, but when it's traveling at 30 feet a second, it may not quite stop fast enough.
Yeah.
Because by the time it realizes, because when it's flying and there's trees, you can see it on the radar. You see all the trees. It knows what's around itself. And when it reaches a certain closeness to something, it will either stop or it will use some navigation to keep a buffer. But if the navigation is too aggressive, it'll stop and ask you, what do you want me to do?
What type of licensing, FFA-wise?
A part 139 or 137? 137.
How is that compared to what you need training for pilot's license?
I mean, you got to do some online testing and stuff, and then you have to go, or training, and then you go down to Brainerd or whatever, and you actually take a written test. But there's no like practical part of it. It's just a written test. But they will have to learn. If you're a private pilot, it's like you can do it in the evening and get a certificate, because you already know. They're just going to remind you about stuff. Like you need to learn about airspaces and all the do's and don'ts. And for a private pilot to pick up on that information is like, in 2 hours you can have your drone license. And literally, if you have a CFI with you, he can apply for it. And I did mine like literally in an evening, and I had mine. But if you don't have a pilot's license, obviously there's a lot more learning involved, and they have to learn about airspaces and distances and all that criteria. So it's a little more involved, but not impossible.
Generally a weekend class that get you up and stuff, and then you can go and take the test.
Yeah, but they will have to take a test. Like I didn't have to take a test.
You say you didn't have to?
I didn't.
Because you had a private license.
Right.
So in terms of use of the drone versus your, precision planter, how's that all, is this like a combo, or you just completely converting over?
Well, I mean, the planter still does, what we got to do with the planter. The drone is kind of it's a tool for us to service the crops later on. There's a lot of different things you can do with these things. There's other drones that you could utilize. I mean, there's programs that you wouldn't use this drone because this thing is meant to haul payloads, but they have drones that you can go up and scout the whole field, and it'll actually have a program that'll tell you whether you need to reseed the field or not because of population density. It actually like maps it right out for you.
And it'll just target
Yep.
areas.
It'll say, hey, this is your population across the field. Over here, this zone is this. You could decide, because sometimes it's like, oh, it doesn't look bad. Well, when you go up in the air and look down, you're like, holy smokes, look over there. Like you can't tell. So there's a lot of technology out there with drones in general. And you don't need a pilot's license or a drone license for the Maverick.
Not if you're not commercially working it, right?
Right. So there's other things that you can do with them. For us, it's obviously the cover crop's a big one. Being able to establish that cover crop ahead of time, I'm very excited about being able to do that. you know,
The imaging of the Mavic is what's nice for you can get plant health and and build an image to go along with your seed density. So it kind of puts a package together as to what's going on with the plant, different stages of its life.
and if you're trying to create prescriptions for your fields, you know, that all ties into that, being able to see the imagery and the density of the crops and creating those maps that you can use later. Any other questions?
What is the width of how much the seed, when you're dropping seed, like how?
Typically, like a wide path would be like 25, but you can make it narrower, 16, 20. You can kind of dictate that. You can change the spinner speed, you can change your width, you can change your height over the crop. Kind of just depends on what species you're spreading, and obviously the cereal crops fly a little better because they're heavier. Like a ryegrass is lighter, so you don't want to push those parameters too hard. So to make sure you're getting, but we were winging it in a lot of ways. We got some advice from the dealers and stuff, and we had no stripping, so I guess we did all right. And we changed, like here I did like 15 feet above the crop, and then when we left here we went to 24, and we honestly saw no difference. So any other questions?
What's your planned overlap?
I don't know what the exact overlap is, but it's at least a few feet. I mean, the spinner speed is kind of giving us a comfortable overlap, but planned is not crazy overlap. But
Okay, so what's your alley width? What's your parallel line separation between?
20, typically 24.
How expensive is the unit?
So the unit was a little under 40,000 for the drone, the batteries, everything you need for the drone.